Hi, welcome back to the Pelican Players YouTube channel. I'm back again to bring you part 2 of the National Storytellers Championship, written and directed by James Williams and Kevin Steinke. Enjoy the show.
Welcome. Tonight, Pelican Players, your local community theater for the Sun City Center, Ruskin, Waimama, Riverview, Apollo Beach, and surrounding area, has the pleasure of entertaining you. Tonight's broadcast is the conclusion of a recording of our live performance of National Storyteller Championship in the Kings Point Veterans Theater on July 23rd of this year. It was the world premiere of this original work, written and directed by James Williams and Kevin Steinke. We broadcast part 1 last Friday evening. Tonight, we present part 2. The cast and crew are made up of local residents. We will introduce them following tonight's broadcast. And now, part 2 of National Storyteller Championship.
Now, our next contestant comes to us from South Dakota, Mr. Palmer Primpraw.
Some 10th graders had a hard time waking up and getting to school on time. Not me. I never had that problem. I was awake at the crack of dawn. I knew that my special bowl and favorite cereal, usually Lucky Charms, would be waiting for me. I had my timing down to a science. I knew that the amount of time I needed to wash up, splash on some of my dad's high karate aftershave, brush my teeth, put on my clothes, grab my lunch, and go out the door to catch the bus at the end of the driveway. I looked forward to that 15-mile ride transporting me to school every day. That ride gave me time to cram for a test, daydream, or take a little nap. The school bus arrived at the school nearly the same time every day. The bus driver knew exactly what she was doing to make that happen. She would take us to the front doors of the school and drop us off. First, I would walk down a long hallway to my locker. I had to walk by the cafeteria. Memories of some of those smells still make me queasy. When I got to my locker, I used my secret numbers to crack the combination lock on it. After I got the lock off, I lifted the silver metal tab to open the door. I put my lunch up on the top shelf, took off my coat, and hung it on one of those hooks on the inside. I grabbed the books I needed for the first half of the day, slammed and locked the door, and walked down 2 long hallways to my homeroom. I was usually one of the first students to arrive. This gave me a few minutes to look over any homework assignments before class began. I sat in my assigned seat on the front left side row of the classroom, near the entry door and the left edge of the teacher's desk. After the teacher documented whether all 15 of us were present or absent, class would start. History was the first subject of the day. My teacher always started class by talking about current events. Sometimes she used a newspaper instead of the history book. It was a quite interesting way to start the day and a nice start to the day. My teacher's name was Ms. Bloomer. She was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed young woman who was originally from Ohio. I'm not sure how she ended up in South Dakota, but she was quite a long way from home. Nevertheless, she always wore a nice-smelling perfume, but Sometimes it was a little strong and made some of us sneeze. Not me, though. I liked her perfume, and I liked Miss Bloomer. I thought she was kind and smart. I knew she was a good person. I must be truthful. I developed a crush on Miss Bloomer. She very well could have had one on me, too. I remember the way she used to sit on the corner of her desk right in front of me with a newspaper in her left hand while she would rub the upper part of her right leg with her right hand. Sometimes I couldn't even focus on current events. She did this while reading the newspaper and asking questions. But I could hardly keep focused on what was happening in her newspaper world. The real trouble came when she would direct a question to me. I was caught in her headlights, and I became incapacitated. I think my response was, I don't know. Duh. I'm sure I came off as the stupidest kid in her class, and I'm really very bright. But at least it worked. She would bypass me and ask another student who was paying attention. It seemed as though that spot on her desktop was her favorite place to sit. I hardly ever remember her sitting in her chair like other teachers. I think she felt safe there, near me. I think that she really, really liked me. I think I gave her strength, like the wind beneath her wings, or something like that. It certainly made me feel special. Every once in a while, she would cross her right leg over her left leg and rub the top of her right leg. I guess she liked changing it up a bit, or maybe her right leg was just cold. She was probably just trying to get it warm. South Dakota can be quite chilly. I keep going over this in my mind. It was a good memory. It was a great memory. Right before it was time to leave homeroom and go to the next class, she would go to the top drawer of her desk and retrieve her tube of lipstick. It happened like clockwork every morning. She would swing back by the corner of her desk and lean. She took off the cap and twisted the tube. There we were again in our safe places. She lusciously smeared the fiery red lipstick on her lips. What's a schoolboy to do? My. The bell rang. She would say, "See you tomorrow." I thought to myself, yeah, sure. You really know how to rattle a South Dakota 10th grader. I just knew she was in love with me. Oh well, I was off to English class, but it wasn't nearly as interesting as my homeroom history class.
Palmer, don't worry, we won't ask you any history questions. But we're glad you can tell a great story. Now, folks, we're going to go back south again to the state of Alabama. Please welcome Camellia Clancy.
Well, the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Well, that's what I remember my mama always telling me. So she had me in the kitchen most of my life, frying up pickles, okra, catfish, and chicken. She also taught me how to make the very best Alabama banana pudding, pecan pie, chocolate gravy over biscuits, and peach cobbler. Delicious. Oh, these were great recipes, and, well, I still make them to this day. I learned a lot from Mama. But there just did not seem to be any man knocking down on my door to ask me out on a date. Well, it took a few years to be able to test my kitchen skills that way. I was in my late 20s when I moved from home and I got my own apartment. I worked full-time at the post office, sorting mail and helping customers at the window. The job not only provided a good living, but it introduced me to the community. I knew a lot of people, and some of them were real characters, like Mr. Johnson, who started out being a real sourpuss in the mornings. I got him to warm up to me. Oh, I know he looked forward to seeing me when he stopped by to pick up his mail from his little gold box. Well, eventually, he understood that I loved taunting him and about not having enough coffee in the mornings or eating enough bran cereal. He started smiling instead of throwing a hissy fit. Oh, I knew that he was a good egg. Then there was Mrs. Bass Barnes. Oh, I saw her about every day, too. Oh, she just loved gossiping about anyone and everyone. Well, one day she stopped by in a tizzy. Well, her brother and her sister-in-law were having a spat. She was sending her brother a care package. She had the very best Alabama expressions, but this one took the cake. Well, she said, well, that woman, she fell out of an ugly tree and hit every branch on the way down. We'd laughed right along and had such a good old time. Well, she asked me if I found a man yet. I said, I can't find one. She said, Camellia, can't, never could. One day while working the window, I saw a nice-looking gentleman come in to mail a package. I didn't recognize him, and I thought to myself, well, that he must be new in town. I took a deep breath, and I said, you must be new in these parts. He said, I just moved here from Texas. My company transferred me. We're going to be opening up the John Deere store just down the street. Oh, that was music to my ears, but I wanted more information. I casually glanced down at his left hand, and I didn't notice a wedding ring. I thought, he could be someone I could be interested in getting to know. Well, he handed me the package addressed to Galveston, Texas. I put it on the scales to determine the cost. I asked if he wanted a return receipt, but he declined, but he smiled. I collected his money, and I provided change, and I felt a little tingle when I put the coins in his hands. I said, by the way, my name is Camellia. Well, he said his name was Benjamin, and he smiled. I said, if you need anything at all, you just holler. I couldn't think of anything else to say to extend the conversation, so, he walked out the door. After Benjamin left, I felt as light as Mama's breakfast biscuits. I wondered if Benjamin could be the one. I went home that night and I did the same mundane things that I normally did, like feeding the cat and frying a bite for supper, quilting, knitting, or watching TV. I couldn't get my mind off of him, though. I was smitten and bitten by a big old Alabama love bug. I so hoped that he would ask me out. It had been a hot minute since Benjamin came back to the post office. I was getting a bit worrisome that he fled the state. But like a light coming down from heaven, he walked through the post office door with a package in his hands, and I thought to myself, I am not letting him get away this time. I was as nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. I said, Benjamin, what's been happening up yonder? Well, he said that the John Deere store was open and, he was doing good. Those words made me feel like he'd be around for a while. I put his package on the scale and I finished the transaction. As I handed him his change, I thought about what Mrs. Bass Barnes said. Can't, never could. With can in my mind, I said, now that you're settled in, how's about I fix you a proper Alabama dinner tomorrow night? I went for it, and Benjamin awkwardly said, sure. I nervously wrote down my address and my phone number, and I handed it to him. I said, see you around 7 o'clock? He said, well, and that'll work. And then he was out the door. After work, I ran down to the Piggly Wiggly to buy a couple gallons of vegetable oil and all kinds of food to fry. Well, I decided to do a smorgasbord of Alabama specialties. After all, I was out to impress, and I did. Well, Benjamin and I have been together since 1977, and we're hoping to make it to the Big 50. God willing, and the creek don't rise.
Thank you, Camellia. What are you having us all for dinner?
Yeah.
Our next storyteller comes to us from Minnesota. Now, she told me before she's a bundle of nerves. I don't believe her, but if she is, please make her feel welcome. Marigold Pondersocks.
Hello. I just recently had an appointment with my shrink. It had been a very exciting week, to say the least. Feelings were building up inside of me. I was dealing with a lot of stuff. My mother died of cancer. That left my father all by himself. I felt so bad for him. I was crushed too. I was trying to understand her death and helping him by frequently getting together over the past few weeks. We went out to eat a lot. I even had him over to the house a couple nights too, and we were going together to church on Sundays. 7 weeks after the death of my mother, he told me that he had been talking to a woman he knew from his high school days. She was an old girlfriend he used to date. He said her name was Jean. The internet makes it so easy to check up on old friends these days. But he apparently had her cell phone number. That seemed very suspicious to me, don't you think? Apparently, her husband died 7 years ago. He said she wasn't in the greatest health. The very next day, after talking to this woman, Jean, he said he was driving to some little town up north of the 10,000 Lakes area. He figured that the drive would be about 2 hours. I showed him how to use the navigation features on his smartphone. He then proceeded to tell me that he was bringing her back to the house for the weekend. The house where I grew up. I couldn't believe he was going to do that. It seemed a bit soon, don't you think? Oh, my mother is probably rolling over in her grave. I mean, she only just died. As I thought about it, I became livid. Oh, I could not believe my father was doing this. He made me so angry. I just couldn't understand why he was doing this. I knew what my therapist was going to say. It's his life, let him live it. I told my therapist I was going to follow my father up to Jean's house after the appointment. She said, what good will that do? And she didn't think it was a good idea. But I wanted to know what my father and Jean were doing. My mind was running wild. As I think back, it came up with the craziest things. I told the therapist that I bet they were going to have sex all over the place. I felt for my poor mother. I wondered if you can have sex if you're using an oxygen tank. My father said Jean was on oxygen. I even Googled that in front of my therapist to see if it was possible. I thought it would ease my mind and give me some peace. I found the answer quickly. It said, if you use oxygen at home, you might find that you feel self-conscious or uncomfortable using it during sexual activity. However, it is perfectly safe to have sex while using oxygen as long as you have an extra long flexi tube. So talk to your partner about concerns. OMG! I wondered if this woman, Jean, spoke to my father about this. I couldn't get the thought of him having sex out of my mind. Verifying the information on Google was totally discouraging. I did look on the brighter side for a fleeting second. I thought maybe it could help my father quit smoking. The therapist chimed in again. It isn't your life, it's his life. Let him live his life. Nothing the therapist said was helping me. I went on about my poor mother next. She's not even cold in the grave, and he was hooking up with another woman, a woman he hadn't seen for years and years. Wondered if maybe he was cheating on my mother all along. Wouldn't that be the icing on the cake? Well, wouldn't it? God. This was a complete shock to the system. I just needed to take a deep breath and calm down. I asked the therapist if she could prescribe something for me to calm down. The next moment, I decided to release it all. I knew what I had to do. I decided right then and there to close my eyes and say a prayer. I said, "Dear Lord, I know you are listening right now. I need your help. Please, 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 with all your power, strength, and might, please help my father see the light. Oh, dear Lord, help him to see the downfall and sin of his ways. And Lord, please help this wretched woman, Jean, see her downfall and sin of her ways too. Oh, help me to get through this. Lord, I need you right now. Oh, dear Lord, help me get through this. Help me understand why my father and this woman, Jean, have fallen from grace. Help me understand why they feel fornication is the answer. Help them see that this is disgraceful, especially with the recent loss of my beautiful and loving mother. Oh, dear Lord, I just don't know how I'm going to get through this. Thank you for giving me strength. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. The prayer made me feel a little bit better. When I opened up my eyes, I heard my cell phone ringing. It was my father. I answered the phone without hesitation. I said, "Hello, what's going on?" He told me his car broke down on the way to Jean's house about 20 minutes out of town. I told him I would be there in 25 minutes and to sit tight. I thanked my therapist for listening to me and said, "Wow, that was fast. The good Lord hears and answers prayers. Oh, I have to go."
Thank you, Marigold. I'm glad it all worked out for your father.
The Pelican Players Radio Theater will conclude tonight's show in a moment. But first, Pelican Players is your community theater celebrating over 40 years of providing live entertainment. In 2020, we arranged with WSCQ Sun Radio to provide recordings of our Readers Theater performances to be broadcast and streamed from their station and website on the last Friday each month. Pelican Players consists of all volunteer local talent on stage and behind the scenes. Our actors perform in our main stage productions, Murder Mystery Theater, Cabaret Singers, Readers Theater, Comedy Theater, Twig Theater, and Radio Theater Productions. Pelican Players is a 501c3 nonprofit with proceeds from our performances going to scholarships for Hillsborough County students in the arts. To date, we have donated over $600,000 to this endeavor. We always welcome new members who have an interest in performing or helping behind the scenes. Even though headquartered in Kings Point, you do not have to live in Kings Point to become a member or attend performances. For more information, please visit our website, www.pelicanplayersscc.org. And now, Pelican Players Radio Theater continues with tonight's performance.
Now, our next storyteller comes to us from the Hoosier State. Please welcome our next storyteller, Goldenrod Gallup.
Well, when I woke up the other morning, I decided to just lay in bed. I didn't feel like getting up right away. Oh, I was feeling a slight ache in my arms and reflecting on the previous day where I painted the living room walls a beautiful shade of light periwinkle. Well, I took the time to take a few deep breaths and focus on what I needed to accomplish today. One thing at the top of my list was to stop procrastinating, take the bull by the horns and get her done. Oh, I've been dragging my feet on cutting the grass, trimming the shrubs, fixing a dripping faucet, and framing a painting that I made a few years ago. Well, after a couple of minutes, I was good to go. I sashayed to the bathroom sink, splashed my face with tepid water, dried my face with a fresh, clean towel that was hanging so nicely on the towel bar. I dabbed my face and arms with some sunscreen and put on my work clothes from the day before. Well, I didn't feel hungry, so I bypassed the kitchen. I went directly to the garage and pressed the button to open the door. See, I needed to mow the lawn first. Oh, it was looking awfully shaggy. So I checked the oil level and added some gas to my 1969 Bel Air 4845 Huffy lawnmower. Oh, she keeps purring along after all these years. Well, I yanked it outside and fired it up. Oh, with just easy pull of the starter cord, we were off. Well, I had the lawn looking really good in about 30 minutes. Well, I sharpened the blade only a few weeks ago, just before mowing season started. Well, after the lawn work was over, I religiously wiped down my 1969 Bel Air 4845 Huffy lawnmower and put her back in her parking spot. Then I decided to treat myself to an ice-cold Red Bull Yellow Edition that I had stashed in the garage mini fridge. Oh, it never tasted so good. I was dripping wet with sweat from that lawn workout. I needed to replenish my electrolytes before I took on the shrubs. It only took about 5 minutes for the Red Bull to give me a kick in the pants. Shook my tail feathers, had all the trimming done in a jiffy. Boy, I was moving at the speed of light before I had more to do. Well, after I finished trimming everything, I decided to have another Red Bull. This time I thought I'd try the red edition. Oh, I really liked that flavor. It was mighty tasty. I guzzled it down because I was so thirsty. Actually, made me feel a little devilish. Started thinking about playing a trick on my husband, who was probably still in bed. I went into the house, opened up the freezer door, grabbed a bag of frozen baby peas. I put it on my neck because I was really hot around the collar, if you know what I mean. The entire time I was cutting that grass, trimming those shrubs, I kept thinking, that no-good slug of a husband of mine is so lazy. You know how lazy he is? He's so lazy that he woke up from a coma and went to sleep. That's my man. Well, I tiptoed into the bedroom and said, sweetheart, are you getting up anytime soon? It's nearly noon. The sun is shining and it's shaping up into another beautiful day. Come on, wakey, wakey. Shaky, shaky. There was no response. Well, I checked to see if he was breathing. Oh, he was. Well, I said, sweetheart, come on. I'm going to heat up some lasagna and garlic toast for lunch. Do you want a salad too? He said, "Food, I'm getting up. I'll be up in a minute." I said, "Sweetheart, you're getting up now." I took the bag of frozen peas from my neck and placed it in a strategic spot. I never saw him jump so quickly. I said, "Sweetheart, please fix the dripping kitchen faucet before I heat up the lasagna and garlic bread." "Well, if you don't, well, last night's supper was your last supper. I'm going to frame a painting while you fix that drippy faucet." Well, I proceeded to frame my art. Well, I had published a pop-in frame. All I had to do was pop in the canvas, install 4 clips around the backside. That was a piece of cake. I had it done in a flash. I carried the painting into the living room, scouted around for a good spot for it. I held it up to the freshly painted periwinkle walls. Oh, it looked marvelous. I called for my husband to come to help pound the picture hook into the wall. There was no response. I thought to myself, did he go back to bed? As I was setting the painting on the floor, the canvas fell out of it. I held on to the edges of the golden frame, turned it around, walked down the hallway. I stopped, looked into the hallway mirror with the golden frame framing me. I thought, Ma, this is my life. Oh, boy, do I need another Red Bull? I'm going to have to fix the drippy faucet myself.
Thank you, Goldenrod. Our next storyteller comes to us from North Carolina. I guess that makes you a Carolina girl. Please welcome Rosemary Griffith.
My precious baby girl did not come home from a date the other night. She had me jibby-tied. I kept calling on her cellular phone, but she did not answer it. I left so many messages on her daggum mailbox that it was all filled up. I had half a notion to call the sheriff, but I thought I'd better ride out the storm and hope it would not turn into a hurricane. She's going to be the death of me yet. I was feeling that if it was my time to kick the bucket, then this just might be it. Oh, I still get heart palpitations thinking about it. Well, my precious baby girl called me about 8:30 the following morning. I was having my 7th cup of chock full of nuts, boiled peanuts, and my 2nd country egg and ham biscuit. And she says, "Good morning, Mama. I am in love." I did not know quite what to say. I think I said something like, "Oh, sweetheart, you just met this fella." And she said, "Oh, Mama, I know. He is so nice." I said, "Precious, there are a lot of nice fellas out there. You barely know this man." And she said, "Oh, Mama, I feel light as a feather. I am just head over heels." And I said, "Oh, Precious, I bet you are. I just bet you are, Precious. But you need to get your feet back on the floor. I think you are moving way too fast for this, sweetheart." And she said, "Oh, no, Mama. He is the best thing that happened to me in a long time. Long time. I want you to be happy for me, Mama." I said, "Oh, Precious, I am happy for you. I am just worried that you're just going a little too fast. You need to slow down, Precious." And she said, "Oh, Mama, he is so strong, masculine, and rugged. I just love him." And I said, "Oh, my girl child, what has he done to you? You need to snap out of this, sweetheart. Your daddy is strong, masculine, and rugged, too. You need to get yourself home to me and your daddy right now. And she said, Oh, Mama, I know Daddy is strong, masculine, and rugged. I have found someone just like Daddy. And I said, Oh, no, precious. You need to snap out of this. Snap out of this. You don't even know this man. You just met this man. She says, Oh, Mama, calm down. This man really loves me, too. We spent the night together. I said, Oh, sweetheart, you're going to give your mama and daddy heart attacks. And she said, Mama, I just know he's going to ask me to marry him, and I am going to say yes. And I said, No, you cannot say yes. Your daddy's going to kill you right now. You cannot marry this man. You just cannot. You just cannot do this to your daddy. You're going to break your daddy's heart. Oh, precious. I cannot believe you're jumping the gun like this. Where are you? I am going to get my switch and jump in the truck and come get you. I am going to whoop you silly. You need to come home, precious. And she said, But, oh, Mama, he brought me to the truck stop hotel. The one with the all-you-can-eat breakfast? He's down there waiting for me, Mama. I'm going to walk and talk. I am going down there to have a bite to eat with him. And you and Daddy are just going to love him. And I said, Oh, precious, you don't know what you're doing, sweetheart. You need to think this through. You're letting that lovemaking you did last night take over your brain. And she said, Oh, no, Mama. I am in love. This love is real. He makes me feel so good. I said, Put a knife through your daddy's heart. That's what you're doing, sweetheart. And she said, Oh, I have to go. I'm at the restaurant. I started hearing sounds like plates and the clatter like they were replenishing the buffet inside the restaurant. I said, Precious baby girl, are you there? Then I loudly heard a woman say, Are you the no-good floozy sleeping around with my husband? Oh. I thought to myself, Oh, my precious baby girl. I got my switch, hopped in that truck, and got to her as fast as I could. She was still pretty broken up when I found her running along the road for home. Oh, Precious got herself in a big old mess. Well, I was a big old mess, too. I am going to slap her up the long side of the head if she ever does that again.
Well, that was Precious. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our last storyteller of the evening. From Colorado, please welcome Elmwood Edison.
Hi. My story tonight's about a little church and how it impacted on our lives. When I was this cute little boy going to church, I used to sit in the back row to the left with my two siblings, an older sister and a younger brother. Now, we tried our best to behave ourselves and be quiet. Now, our parents sat right between us. That was to learn to keep our hands to ourselves. They tried to silence our chatter and whispering back and forth. There just was no fun to be had in church. And their parenting assured us of that. They knew what they had to do to keep us quiet, though. We wanted to squirm, we wanted to wiggle, we wanted to do all of that, but they knew how to keep us quiet by bribing us. They would bribe us with a half a stick of Juicy Fruits or some Certs or some Lifesavers. That was deliciousness, and it worked for a little while, but soon the flavor left and the last crunch was gone. My mother's pocketbook, I think, ran out, and all we wondered was, when is this ever going to be over? We just want to get outside and have fun and play. Now, the minister sometimes turned into a horrible, scary person, monster-like. He would, face would turn red, and he would sweat, and he would raise his voice real loud. We wonder why he was doing so much yelling and carrying on and riled up like that. Well, we just had to sit there in the pews and be quiet and listen to it. Now, in spite of all the things he did, he never got reprimanded. Memories aside, I truly had a great upbringing. I really did. I'm just not trying to convince myself of that. Time marched on. My siblings and I came to appreciate the knowledge, support that church provided. We were given the fundamental skills like knowing the difference between right and wrong, selfishness, sharing, hope, courage, peace, and prayer. The virtues go on and on. That little church was definitely part of my personal enlightenment. Now, as I grew older, the back row became a lot less familiar. I would volunteer to help out with special events, musics, shows. Church became more of a social place. It became my community. I often remember the faces and names of that church family. I can visualize them in the church pews where they have passed on to the other side, referred to it as they have gone home to be with Jesus. I can still see them all sitting in their favorite spots in the pew, just like they did every time they put their foot in that church. I wonder what they're doing right now. I wonder if they can hear me talking and thinking about them. I think they can. For some reason, I truly feel they hold some very special place in my heart. Now, the minister and his wife found their way home too. They've been going for many years now. They were gentle people. They were missionaries in Africa before they came to our little church. I don't know what there was about Colorado that attracted them. I guess it was the Rocky Mountains. It certainly was not the excitement that they were having in Africa. I remember their remarkable stories. I remember their kindness. I remember their intelligence. I was engrossed in their stories. They were well-traveled. They understood the diversity and cultures of the world. It opened their eyes to a broader sense of what there is, and it helped them figure out how to tell other people how to look beyond the ends of their noses. Their stories made me want to explore and see what was out there and find my way home. Now, the way home depends on who you are, where you came from, and what you experienced in life. There were so many possibilities once you open yourself to the world of possibilities, just like the minister and his wife did. The way home is something that grows inside of us as we travel, explore, and embrace new experiences in our lives, yet still contemplating all of the faces and experiences in our past. The way home is waxing and waning inside of us, just like the moon. As we wax, we build up our lives by gaining a deeper direction for our internal compass, and as we wane, we release those obstacles and things that have been blocking our path. For me, the way home is kind of like a movie reel, starting on the first day I was born until all the way up here where I stand before you now. I am happy, I'm comfortable, and I think I have found my way home.
Thank you, Elmwood. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a hand for all of our storytellers.
Oh, thank you.
All right, folks, well, it's that time of the night where we are awaiting the results from the judges. And, there is a judge. He is remaining anonymous for his own safety. will the storytellers please rise? It is my honor and privilege to present the coveted Pelican Award to the winner. And the winner is... Oh, did they leave? Oh, no, right here, Rosemary Griffith. Rosemary.
Oh, Rosemary.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, wait, Rosemary? Thank you for coming. It's been an amazing night. We can't wait until next year's Storytelling Championship. And we hope tonight, hearing all these stories, it's inspired you to share some of your stories in the future. Thank you. Have a great night.
This concludes National Storyteller Championship. Tonight's cast includes Paul Ansel as the announcer, Rick Swenson as Palmer Primpra, Barbara Boyle as Camellia Clancy, Marianne Mosley as Marigold Pondersocks, Jeannie Nash as Goldenrod Gallup, Wendy Smith as Rosemary Griffith, and Chuck Fowle as Elmwood Edison. Written and directed by Kevin Steinke and James Williams. Our sound and recording team includes Keith and Carlin Postal, Bob D'Almeida, and Sylvia Lazaro. Please be safe, stay well, and thanks for listening. Good night.